Hello, angels. Welcome back. I hope everybody's okay, and I hope your families are well, and that you all had a lovely Easter break, and that everybody's doing okay. So, for this week's math lesson, we are going to be looking at decimal, fractions, and percentages. Okay, now remember, this was a new math unit that we were supposed to start with, but because of the school closure, we couldn't do that. So that's what we're going to continue for this week. So we're going to be looking primarily at decimal, then later on percentages, and of course, fraction, which links into decimal. So this is the LI for today's lesson. You are going to read and write decimal numbers as fractions. So we're starting off nice and easy, first lesson back, and then we'll progress as we go along. So for your success criteria, you are going to understand that when we write numbers, the position or place of each digit is important, especially in your place value column. To think of the decimal number as a whole number, plus tenths, hundreds, and etc. And to know that the sign, the sign, I've shown it to you in class, stands for percent, which means out of 100. So that's what percentage means. The number is out of 100. Okay. So here's my place value, decimal place value chart that I drew earlier on. So I've got my thousands column, hundreds, tens, unit, and of course the decimal, then the tenths, the hundredths, and the thousand section. Right. So this is free online resources that covers a lot of things, a lot of units that we've already done in mathematics, and more units you're going to be doing in future. So right now we're looking at obviously decimals and percentages. Top Marks and BBC Bite Size. These are a great website that you can actually use before you do the math lesson, after you do the math lesson, during the math lesson. It's not just for study time. You can actually use this for fun as well, because you'll be learning at the same time as you're having fun. You can use this with your siblings, because I know a lot of you have older and younger siblings that can participate in this. And the best thing is that you can also have fun with this with your adults as well, especially with the bingo, because that's fun. So all you need is a piece of paper and a pencil. So this can be a whole family thing and not just for when you were studying. So you're studying and you're having fun at the same time. Now in this lesson, we're going to be looking at more complex numbers. Numbers like 0.96 and 0.03, and also numbers that are bigger than 1. And you'll be able to represent them both as a decimal and as a fraction. So you should be able to look at the number. You should be able to say what the number is as a decimal. You should also be able to say what the number is if you were to convert it into a fraction. And you should be able to write the number in words. So now let's look at this. As you can see on my board, there's a place value grid here. We've got the hundredths, the tenths, and the units. And then, of course, your decimal. And then you have the tenths, the hundredths, the thousandths, and the tens of thousands. Okay. Now, in the number 490.7042, what does the first 4 represent? So obviously, we have 2 number 4s here. Yeah, so he says, what does the first 4 represent? It's under the hundreds column, so that represents 100. What does the first 0 represent? That's in the units column, so that represents units. What does the 7 represent? So we go right here, and the 7 is under the tenths column. And that's effectively how you read decimal numbers. Just make sure you put them under the right column, and you should be able to say what number is under which column. Now, the next one is, how would you write 1.34? And can we represent this number in a different way? So here is my place value grid, right? And it says, how would you write 1.34? So remember, at any point, you can pause the video. If you're not sure about anything, you can also go back and rewind the video so that way, if you need to hear it again. But like I said, this first lesson is very straightforward, and I know this is something that you're very good at doing. So 1.34. 1, there's your decimal, and then there's your 3, 4. Okay, and then it says, can we represent this number in a different way? So what that simply means is that you can see the number now as a decimal. How can we represent this in a different way? Yeah, remember what we discussed in class? all the numbers before the decimal are a lot larger, and then all the numbers after the decimal are smaller. So we have 1 in the units column, which means that this is a whole number. So all the numbers before the decimal are all whole numbers, and then all the numbers after the decimals represent fractions. So here we have 1 whole, and then of course 34 over hundreds, because this is in the hundreds column. So this would look like this: 1 whole, 34 over 100. And that's how you represent it. Simple, really easy peasy. So you have it as a decimal, and then you have it as a fraction. So let's convert some of these numbers, decimals, into fractions using the place value grid. So you can pause this video now, try a few of them. Remember, you just need to get a piece of paper and pen and draw your own place value grid. It will take you seconds, and then put in those numbers and then see if you can also convert them into fractions. So go ahead, pause the video and try some of them now. Okay, welcome back. Let's see. So the first one is 1.4, which I've put in here already, 1.4. So we have the 1 in the units column, and then we have the 4 in the tenths column. Now remember what I said, the numbers before the decimals are what numbers? Whole numbers. Excellent. And the number after the decimals are what numbers now? Fractions. Good. So this 1.4 would actually be 1 whole 4 tenths. Yeah, 1 whole and 4 tenths. So let's try another one. Let's try 1.036. 1 decimal 0 3 6. Okay, so of course you're ahead of me. I can see that is 1 whole 36 over 1,000. Good, because the 6th is in the thousands column. So this will be, let me try and get this straight, 1 whole 36 over 1,000. And that's it. That's effectively it. It really is as simple as that. So go back to your success criteria. Understand that when we write numbers, the position of each digit is important, and to think of the decimal number as a whole number plus tenths and hundredths, which is exactly what we've done here. Grid, column, each digit is under with the right number. The units, anything before the decimal, the units, the tenth, the hundred, the thousands, these are all whole numbers. Anything after the decimal is a fraction. Okay, so another way to represent the numbers is this. All right, let's make sure this is clear for you to see. There we go. So we have 1.4, which is 1 whole 4 tenths. Okay, and then you have, I've used a bar model for this. So I have my 1 whole, there's my 1 whole, complete whole. And then 4 tenths, that'll be 4 out of tenths. That's one way of representing it. And here I've got 3.83. Then I know that's 3 whole, 83 over 100. So here are my 3 wholes. They represent the 3 wholes. And the 83 over 100 just means that these 100 represents 100 square. I didn't want to draw 100 square because that would have taken ages. So imagine if you had 100 square, all you have to do is shade 83 or take 83. And that's what this 83 over 100 represents. All right. So that's a different way to represent the number. You have it in decimal, you have it in fractions, and then you represent it using blocks or a bar model. And then of course you can write this in words. That would be 3 whole 83 hundredths, 1 whole 4 tenths. Another good thing about using place value grid, decimal place value grid, is that, put some notes at the bottom, it's easier to see the numbers represented. So as you can see, it's very, very easy to see what the numbers are represented. And as soon as you see, you can like, boom, I know which number comes first, or I can clearly see which number comes last. Very, very easy to read. Yeah. And so this makes it easier and quicker. And just by looking at this grid alone, you can tell which number is bigger and which number is smaller, or which ones are in the tenths column and which ones are in the hundredths column. Okay. Now, the next thing, you now have to go to your task, which is online for you to see. And once you finish your task, you have word problems extension that I have given you to try. So read this, answer the question, and then, of course, email it back to us, because I'll be curious to know how you did this word problems extra. Okay? And any questions, remember, you can contact us via the Year 5 website if you have any questions regarding any of the tasks or you're not sure what you need to do. All right? And remember what I said about that website. Let's go back at the beginning. This website. Have fun on it. It's not just about learning, but you're learning through games. And the best part is that you can actually do this with people in your house as well. That way you have something else to do and they'll be part of your learning. And who knows, you learn something new, yeah, that you can all do together. Okay? So go, have fun. Remember, pause the video if you need to go over it. Rewind it if you're not sure about anything. Okay? Enjoy.